Chapter 13. All the good things about migration. I have to admit that if it weren't for the war, I don't think I would have ever found myself in countries as far-flung as Brazil, Chile, or Argentina. It's unlikely that I would have ended up in Europe either. The war has taken me to a different world, one that's unlike the one I'm used to. It's as if everything has remained the same people, the same problems, but there is still a difference. Ukraine is a very difficult place to live in, and that's how I remember it. There are small salaries, honest work is almost not valued, difficult working conditions, often brutal attitude of the bosses to their subordinates, and the same attitude of compatriots to each other. After all, the standard of living affects people's character, and the poorer the population, the more vices there are. The world is designed in such a way that excessive pleasures corrupt society, and when life is full and drunk, then the desire to achieve something is minimized. At the same time, poverty and misery make people mean, greedy, low, selfish, and envious individuals who only seek profit. Women easily become prostitutes, and men turn from protectors into hired killers and robbers. This is exactly the Ukraine I remember, criminalized, and no one cares about anything, just to grab something for themselves. On the other hand, it was a country where it was easy to buy anything, even without proper qualifications and status, where the law existed only formally. They may object to me, but it's the same everywhere. I'm talking about Ukraine, and I have little interest in the concept of everywhere in this context. When the war started, it was noble at first, but then it became clear that those in power, as well as some commanders in the army, were trying to continue the fighting at all costs, as long as there were people to fight, in order to make a business out of blood. And they could delay the end of the war until the last Ukrainian was gone, until the land was empty. They would eagerly catch people on the streets, as if they were notorious criminals. The authorities have closed the borders and introduced rhetoric insulting both those who have left and many of those who have remained in the country. They do not condemn themselves in any way, they do not ask themselves, only more and more driving ordinary people into slavery. How did these scoundrels make life easier for ordinary Ukrainians? Help temporarily displaced persons? Maybe they made free hospitals throughout the country for war victims and veterans, or organized acceptable conditions for housing loans. Can it contribute to the multiplication of large families? Or have they encouraged single mothers in some way? Everything they say and do is lies and self-interest. They don't care about the population, it's always been that way. For example, I lived in small Holland for 2 years. In this country, there is a lot of work, an endless number of greenhouses where everything is grown, and good salaries in any field. What prevented Ukraine from creating such greenhouse complexes on its rich black soil land? Even without black soil, what was the problem, and what was the result? Why is small Holland, which is partially made of sand, one of the most economically powerful countries in the world? And how did it happen that a very rich country, Ukraine, was recognized as one of the poorest in Europe a few years ago? What is the paradox? Migration also allowed me to get acquainted with international cultures, African, Asian, Latin American, and European. I saw that the people are different, but they are not much different from each other. All around the same problems as in South America, that in Western Europe. The EU is flooded with migrants like me, the same story in Chile. Brazil is increasingly made up of migrants, like the US. And nothing, people somehow live. A certain alloy, a symbiosis, forms its own authentic world, attractive and dynamic. Brazil is remembered for its friendly internationalism. Huge cities, wonderful beaches, ocean, beautiful houses by the sea, glass skyscrapers, heat, mountains, jungles, endless tunnels, attractive women, open population, motorcyclists, a gigantic industry for children, Masonic culture, and crowded markets. As for me, Brazil is unforgettable. Once you have been there, you will not forget it again. Argentina has captured my heart with its vast expanses, endless green forests, friendly people, and cozy courtyards. European-style cities, passionate people, and one interesting girl who, like a race car driver, drove me to the bus station one morning, as if trying to leave the planet by car and rush into space. Argentines are cool guys. Chile is a country of mountains and arid regions. I remember its frightening expanses when I looked out the window of the plane and saw it floating below. Looking at her, I thought, what if we fall and crash somewhere in the middle of these mountains? If I survive, will I be able to get out of here? There are cliffs, mountain ranges, desert expanses and crystal clear lakes on the peaks of the Andes. We flew over a huge highlands, and there was a breathtaking feeling in my soul from the scale of the territory and its ruthlessness. I can't say that Chile made me want to live there, but the country has left its mark on my soul. Europe. I will not talk about Holland anymore. I have written enough, but believe me, it is a great country that has given me a lot, for which I am grateful. Its only significant minus, which I regard more as a compensator, is the eternal rains and rare Sunday. The fact is that the sky over Holland and Belgium is always covered with clouds. When you fly over this carpet of clouds, the sun shines brightly and warmly as usual, and you see such breathtaking beauty. There are so many planes in the sky that it's overwhelming. And as soon as you go down, overcoming the layer of clouds, it's like you're in a world of gloom and rain. It's not like in Chile. In Chile, in 5 months of life, I've only seen one full-fledged rain, which continued uncontrollably for 3 days. Everything was flooded, but then it became warm, and it lasted for several months without stopping. I really like the Chilean climate, there's no doubt about it. The Dutch climate is no match for it. I would like to add separately about the Dutch language, which is similar to German in some ways and to English in others, but it is neither one nor the other. In Chile and in Argentina Spanish, in Brazil Portuguese, in Holland, however, Dutch, which I terribly do not like. But I am impressed by the Dutch themselves, tall, fair-haired, attractive people. They have interesting architecture and comfortable arrangement of life, literally everything is cultivated. Belgium is also nice, cozy, old-fashioned, with a large elderly European population and a large young Muslim population. I do not know how this population replacement will end for them, but as far as I understand, the trends are not very favorable. During my migration, I realized that it is possible to live anywhere, and a lot depends on a person's personal needs, beliefs, and goals. After all, what we want is what drives our actions. Therefore, be careful with your desires, as they can come true, just as mine did. However, I have no regrets, and I am grateful for everything that has happened to me. Thank you, Lord, for this.